All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to Separation Nation. Glad you joined us again. Another episode, and just coming to you right now today. And listen, we're excited to be with you. We've done kicked out quite a few episodes here in the past several weeks. Just come off of a great part one and part two with Todd Saylor. We hope you've have heard those and went and checked them out. If you haven't, listen, take time to go do it. It's just two phenomenal stories. I mean, Todd's extremely passionate guy, and so much that he shared when he was on here. So much you'll gain from a value perspective there if you'll just go back and take a listen to those. And just done another podcast where we're talking about adversity and adversity university. And God knows that the country has been through a time and is hopefully on the uphill side, coming on out, getting back to the top of the mountain, out of the valley now. And so, with all the coronavirus and the COVID-19 mess that we're all sick of hearing about, but hey, it's been a ride thus far. And so today, one thing I wanted to talk about, I've got this hat on. If you're watching this, if you're not watching it on YouTube, um, I actually ordered this hat several weeks ago, and but it's a guy, an influencer. If you hadn't checked him out, you should check him out. By the name of Sean Whalen. He's a great guy, and but he's got a line of hats and clothes. We've got our own stuff, our White Buffalo and Bank Draft and Produce or Reduce and stuff. And again, just as a reminder, our online store for Agents Resource Group will be up May the 1st. And so you'll want to go check that out. A lot of the apparel, the things you might see me or John wear from time to time, what I call attitude apparel, especially if you're in the sales industry, it's a lot of stuff that kind of concepts that communicates there. But all that's going to be made available we're going to have the basic suite of products and apparel on there May 1st, and it'll continue to grow and expand over the course of the next few months. But so go check that out, agentsresourcegroup.com. But my point in this hat, what I was wearing today, and I like stuff that makes a statement. I'm kind of a little eccentric sometimes, and got my Baghdad gym shirt on today that actually come from Baghdad. And years ago, a guy that was a contract worker brought it back for me. But so I might look a little militant today, but I might be feeling a little militant too. And so we just want to talk to you about, double-mindedness, folks that just cannot seem to get things figured out. And the reason I got this hat on today, besides the fact that I like it, but specifically for this episode, is if anything, what we are coming out of and have been in with the whole coronavirus, it's illuminated people that had a sheep mentality versus folks that had a lion mentality. It's made it real clear. The lines have been drawn, and all you got to do is go to people's social media page and see how they succumb to the fear mongering and the doubt and the disbelief, and they believe everything that's been thrown at them and just consumed every bit of news and, not fact checked anything and just ran crazy and cowered back, and they got a shotgun in one hand and a can of beans in the other, and they're stocking up on we can't buy no toilet paper because they're buying everything up as soon as you can get it. The lines have been drawn, and it's also illuminated because adversity always reveals greatness. We done a podcast on that, and talked about that when all this first started happening. But it's going to always illuminate the true nature and character and courage or lack thereof in people. And it draws a very definitive line. And you see the people that step forth that maybe you didn't even know were leadership people, but they step forth and they're being positive and they're posting positive things and they're trying to keep truth in balance, and they're telling people, listen, don't go crazy with this. Don't let it consume you. Get you a little bit of news, enough to know what's going on, and keep moving forward with your life. Use this time. Control what you can control. That's your productivity. Prepare yourself. Read more books. Work out more. Examine your life, where you've been up to this point. Is it time to make a career change? Could this be the greatest opportunity of your life? and you're sitting here labeling it as the worst time of your life? Could this be an awesome door of opportunity? Because maybe you wouldn't have let go of the thing that you held on to for so long, the bad job, the bad relationship, whatever it is. Maybe it was a good job, but the greatest enemy of great is good. Maybe you've held on to something good out of comfortability, wanting to be wanting to be comfortable. Excuse me, you know. And listen, comfort's a career killer, and it's a dream killer. And so a lot of us can fall and succumb to these type of mindsets. And sometimes it takes something big in life, something major to come in and to shake us and to basically kick us out of the nest that we would have just stayed in because it was comfortable, and that's what these times illuminate. It's what it shows. It shows, and man, I'm going to tell you what, I've seen a lot of sheep through this. But the good news is I've also seen a lot of lions. I've seen a lot of people that have stepped up, have had a positive mentality, have approached this and stepped back and looked at it and understood, everything in life, happens for me. It doesn't happen to me. So I'm not a victim. What can I gather from this? What precious stones and things and pearls of wisdom and mindsets, what ways can I alter myself in a positive manner so that I'm positioned for further greater achievement and success when the world gets turned back on and things come back together? And listen, you don't even have to wait for the world to get turned back on. You can get in an industry that's essential at this time. You can make some changes in an industry like our industry. I mean, you can go to an insurance school in 2 weeks and we'll have you in a vehicle training with training pay and have the very realistic ability to have a 6-figure income in your first year. And, we've seen it even in our own companies. We've seen people during this time that have chose, to cower back. I was talking to one of our agents and managers actually that came in yesterday. I was up here eating my lunch and he poked his head in and I was talking to him and he told me something. He said, listen, he said, the only issue that we have had in conducting our business has been, in other words, if the actual agent, the insurance agent himself had the mentality that, he needed to take it easy or step back. He said, those of us that are approaching life and moving forward, being mindful, okay, being considerate, but not letting it scare us or change our mental state. We've had very little, if any, issues at all continuing to help people with our services and with what we do. He said it's only the ones that approach that day, this time, that client from a mindset of, I need to be timid, I need to be careful because of what's going on, and I need to cower back. Those are the only people and producers that's had any issue. So we've even seen in our own company people that are a little more sheepish and folks that are lions that's going to find a way to make it happen, that's going to adapt, that's going to pivot during this time and find a way to get it going. But I was talking with one guy earlier today and just, trying to figure out, man, where's your mental state with these things going on? You've not been very productive during this time, hadn't really been productive at all, and just out of concern, how you making it, how you gonna make it, you've got to make a decision here to get back on the forefront and to be productive during this time and not just sit back and do nothing. And I said, where are you at with that? Where you at? And he said, well, I'm not real sure. I'm kind of 50-50 is what he said. Now, it wasn't long after that, the phone call, we had to get off the phone call with a bad service situation. And I'll be talking back to this individual that I try to help mentor some later on this evening, hopefully. But, man, it went in me like a dart. And part of it makes me mad. It don't make me mad at the person, but it makes me mad at that type of mentality. And listen, we all got a decision. We can either be double-minded, in other words, and that's a sheep that'll just let anybody with a staff come, all right, and try to wrangle it and herd it and move it any direction they want. But have you ever tried to herd a lion? Have you ever seen anybody herd a lion in the wild? Now, I'm not talking about nobody that's pinned up and been domesticated in life, but I'm talking about an actual lion.
We ain't talking about a Joe Exotic lion.
We ain't talking. That's exactly right.
We're talking about the real deal.
We ain't that effing Carol Baskins.
We ain't talking about Carol. And her line and her
But
husband.
we're talking about actual lines, people, and that's what the point of this today is. Is you got to decide. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee for those of you that hear a pause there, but you got to make a decision. You know, it's kind of like who you gonna serve in life. There's even a scripture that says you can't serve two masters. Okay. And so you got to make a decision. The definition of double mindedness is wavering in mind, undecided, having opposite or opposing views at the same time. In the Bible, to use another scripture, okay, and whether you believe the Bible's the definitive word of God or not, or whether you're a religious person or not listening to this podcast, I've rarely met anybody that don't agree that there's some proverbs and some pearls of wisdom in there that's applicable no matter what you believe. There's some truth in there, you know, and even in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 8, it says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And the number one symptom of having a double mind is instability, okay, being inconsistent. And so to be double-minded that's what it means, to be inconsistent, vacillating, to be and act one way today and to be and act some other way tomorrow. And listen, I don't know if you've ever been around people that's like that, but you can't have any confidence in somebody that's wired that way, in a double-minded person, because they're unfaithful. You don't know if they're going to be there or not be there. And confidence in an unfaithful man in a time of trouble is like a broken tooth and a foot out of joint. There's a proverb for you. Confidence in an unfaithful man or woman in a time of trouble is like a broken tooth and a foot out of joint. And so, I mean, you want somebody in the foxhole with you that you can count on. In our company and in the companies that we own and manage here out of Valdosta, I mean, John and I, we want to be able to count on people. You better believe that if we've got a person, don't mean they don't mess up sometimes or go through difficult times, but if we got a person on our team in positions of leadership, we feel like that those people, to the best of their ability, is people that we can count on, because you want to be able to have faithful, consistent people. And listen, I mean, if you want to impress somebody in life, be consistent. Consistency and stability, that's the things that's going to get you where you need to go. And so it just, you know, in preparing for today's, and I was going to, you know, kind of maybe title this a whole nother direction. But in having that little bit of that conversation earlier with this individual, I was just like, man, what a time to be uncertain. What a time to not really know. What a time to be up in the air. What a time to not know how you're going to make provision for your family. And not because you really don't know, but because you're making a choice, because we make our choices and our choices make us.
That's right. And I think, you know, especially with the stuff going on now in the United States and across the world, there's so many voices out there. You know, there's so much to watch. If you watch, whether you watch CNN or Fox News, MSNBC, anyway, it's all fake, man. None of it's real. And we're dealing with a tragedy. We're dealing with something that is not to be made light of. With the coronavirus or COVID, I'm almost sick of saying it and hearing about it. But it's almost like, now that we're on the other side and things are getting better, it's almost like the news and the media resources are upset about it, because now what are they going to get ratings with? Now what are they going to talk about? And so, you know, I've always said this: don't let your ears tell your eyes what to see. You know, and when we talk about being double-minded, you know, I think you can sum up being double-minded by saying this: a double-minded person is someone who doesn't have a made-up mind. They haven't made their mind up on who they are, what they believe, what they want to be, what they want to achieve. They don't know their why. They're walking through life without a made-up mind. And they straddle the fence on careers. They straddle the fence on relationships. And that's why, like, even, you know, with the Bible, the scripture says it makes them unstable in all of their ways. If your mind is not made up in life, your relationships will be unstable. Your finances will be unstable. There'll be instability in your career, in your job. You bounce from here to there, wandering around with no meaning in life, all because you hadn't made up your mind. You don't know what you believe. You don't know what you want. You don't know what side you stand on. You just ride the fence all through life. And, with everything going on, you don't know if you're a lion or a sheep. You hadn't made up your mind. Hey, I'm going to be a lion. I'm not going to be a sheep. You're not going to herd me. I'm not going to, have a herd mentality. I'm not just going to follow the flow. But this is what I know. This is what I believe. This is who I am. We talked about in the last podcast, during times of adversity, we find out who we are. And then when you look at social media, you start seeing things about people now that you didn't realize was there, because adversities come. Now you hear the sound of the sheep. The lion, you don't hear so much. The only time you hear from the lion's when he's got to let you know he's there. A lot of times the lions are a little more quiet. But a sheep will always make that sound, that sheepish cry. And you hear a lot more from sheep than you do lions. Lions a lot of times are silent until they have to roar. And when they do roar, sheep shut the hell up at that point in time. Everybody else does too. But kind of getting back to what I'm saying, don't let your ears tell your eyes what to see. If you're focused, because here's the thing about the opposite of a double-minded person is a single-minded person. A person with a single mind, I always have a single vision, and nothing from news media to people in their lives or naysayers. Nobody's going to tell them any different. And if you want to, you talk about the Bible, there's a psalm that says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of the sinner, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful." Whether you believe in Scripture or Bible or not, sum it up to say it like this: blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unwise, but he takes his counsel, he takes his advice from people with wisdom. We've said it before on here. Don't get financial advice from somebody who's broke. Don't get marriage advice from somebody who's been divorced 16 times. Don't get health advice. If I go to the gym and I want to learn how to get my body in shape, I'm not going to go to the guy walking 20 minutes on the treadmill and then going home that's been looking the same way for 2 years, but on his way home, he stops by and he walks on the treadmill while he texts on his phone. But I'm going to find a ripped up buff dude in the gym and I'll say, how'd you get that body? Because that's what I want. I'm going to get advice from people who know what they're doing, know what they're saying, been down the road that I'm going down, and they have the possessions that I want to have. If I'm going to get financial advice, I'm going to get somebody that's got some finances, that's got some money, and maybe they can give me the advice that I need, but I'm not going to get it from unwise people. It's the same way with watching the news. When we're dealing with all of this, you're listening to somebody who talks for a living. They don't know medical science. They don't know this or that and the other. You're getting all of your things and all of your advice and all of your news from people who don't have wisdom, that don't most of the time do not know what they're talking about. And we go through this whole deal. We got doctors giving financial advice and we got finance people giving medical advice. Stay in your lane, talk about what you know about, and be about what you know about, and get your advice from people with wisdom.
Well, we've said it, and we'll say it 1,000 more times before we're ever done with this podcast, over the course of the years we do it. But I mean, one thing we do up here is we pick a horse and ride it, and that's what we believe. Heck, I'll probably have that put on a T-shirt before it's all said and done with. But pick a horse and ride it, and know your why, know what you're doing, and don't let nothing deter you from it. Understanding that adversity is going to come, but you just keep moving forward. The thing that gets me with a lot of people too is, and you can see the people that just mainline like an IV stuck in both arms, and they're sharing everything and every conspiracy theory, and forwarding you the chain messages on Facebook Messenger and all this stuff, trying to, and listen, I mean, this world will drive you slam crazy if you focus on all that kind of stuff. And you just got to make a decision again, if you're going to be a sheep or if you're going to be a lion. One of the greatest things you can come to realize is ultimately, no matter who's in government, who's in office, who's your state representatives, who's your senators, who's your governor, who's your local mayor, who's the sheriff where you live, the president of the United, nobody has as much influence on what does or does not happen in your life, listen to me, people, as you do.
That's right.
Nobody I've been through, bad economies at this point, good economies. I've about lost everything in the crash of '08 with real estate, and it was painful. But guess what? I'm not sitting there with everything lost now. And so you got to understand, and I learned a lot in '08 when we went through that financial crash. And one thing that I learned through that is if you've ever built something once, you can build something again.
Absolutely.
If you know what you're doing and you're determined, and listen, even if you don't, when I say know what you're doing, that don't mean you got a formula down for everything. What I mean is that you're destined for greatness. You know that, damn it, you deserve to freaking be great. You deserve to have great relationships. You deserve to have a beautiful wife. You deserve to have plenty of money. You deserve to drive the car or vehicle of your dreams and live in the house that you want to live in. It's understanding your self-worth and knowing your abilities and understanding that you can come back from anything. You really can. And anybody telling you otherwise, it's just crabs in a bucket. They want you to stay where they're at. And so, listen, there is nothing like a good comeback story. And I've lived long enough to have a few now. And understand that through this time. Some of you that's in your 20s and maybe had just started your career, is listening to this podcast. And folks, this may be the first big kind of deal you've went through like this before. Okay. But let me tell you something, it won't be the last. But if you'll take this and learn from this situation you're in, I mean, one thing I've learned quite a few things throughout this. One thing I've learned is I need to have some other things going on, even more than I currently got going on financially in my life, and this caused me to look at other avenues and other things. We're in an industry that we've been blessed. It really hadn't affected us a whole lot. It's affected us some. It's affected everybody some. But it's also opened my eyes to, what's some other things. And that's what I've tried to do through this, is I've tried to look at sectors and industries and things that even through this pandemic are able to still move on and function and still have liquidity and still have cash flow, and step back and just make some mental notes. I've got a notebook. I've got pages and pages full of now things that I feel like I have learned, things that I need to do better moving forward to have even more security than what I currently have when something like this arises again, because it will. It may not be another pandemic. I mean, we hadn't had nothing this major since 1917, 1918 from a health perspective, but I mean, it may be something else. And so, it's just that's all you can do is have a positive outlook, gather what you can from this, and be ready, locked and loaded moving forward. If you're the person that's laying around all day long in your night clothes, eating Cheetos and just watching television, listen, man, this thing you're not going to be ready when this thing opens back up the way it needs to. If you're not keeping a schedule, getting up, whatever your daily attire is, and putting some stuff on. I mean, I've got on up several days and went on and got a shower and put on a sports coat, walked around my own house just because it helped me mentally.
It helped me feel better. I did the same thing today. I threw a sports coat on just because I wanted to, just because I needed
that's
to.
It.
I needed to feel like I was going to battle.
I mean, that's what you need to be doing, people.
I mean, and the thing about this, and I'm going to say the word one more time, coronavirus, and I'm not going to say it again the rest of this podcast. But if you look at this thing the right way, this is an enemy. I said it before. This is an enemy that has attacked us as a people. And I'm going to fight. I'm not going to quit fighting. We talked about in the last podcast, adversity. I'm going to face adversity head on. I'm going to do what I got to do. And being single-minded or having a mind made up does not mean that you can't have a renewed mind or you can't change methods and methodologies. I mean, it's kind of like in our business. We've adopted some new things. We've adapted, I sat with a gentleman this morning. He said, the way I approach a prospect's a little bit different. The way I approach a meeting's a little bit different. I'm spending more time on the phone than I've ever spent because of the social distancing and different things. And listen, you either adapt or you die in this world. So don't take us where we ain't going. To have a single mind or a single vision does not mean we can't shift our methods and and the way we approach things and the way we do things. But we've got to adapt and do what works, but not quit fighting. Because see, here's the thing. The coronavirus can affect our health if it attacks our body. If you got a weak body, it's going to affect you more. If you're overweight, it's going to affect you more. If you got respiratory problems, if you smoke, if you do these things, it's going to affect you more. But not only is it affecting our health, and not only is it attacking people's health, it's attacking people's pocketbook. And now you tell me, if you get coronavirus, are you going to give up, or are you going to fight? Are you going to do what you got to do within your body and in your mind and in your soul and in your spirit to attack this thing back and to survive it? You're going to do everything you can. You're going to fight tooth and nail. I'm going to do the same thing with my finances. If it's going to attack my pocketbook, I'm coming right back at it. I'm going to get up just as early as I've always got up. I'm going to make phone. I can go see somebody depending on what business you in. But guess what? You got a telephone. You got a cell phone. You got the internet. You can send emails. Be as productive as you can in this time. And if you lose 50% of your business over this next time, you need to continue to work, because 50% is better than 0%. And when this country opens back up, and it will open back up, and this economy's rolling again, and it will, because it's America, baby, and it's going to roll, and we're going to do what we've always done. We're going to rise from the ashes.
America.
We're going to come out fighting, and we're going to be the greatest country. We are the greatest country. We're going to always be the greatest country, and Corona's not going to take us down. Nothing's going to take us down. But when it opens back up, your posture, are you going to come out from a posture of defeat, or are you going to be the same sword-slinging warrior you've always been? Be ready, because when it comes out, whatever you've lost in this time of lack, you can make up. And if your mind's right and you're single-minded, got a made-up mind, you'll gain it back tenfold when this thing opens back up.
Let me address two things that two different mindsets that you see presented in double-mindedness, okay? So to be double-minded, that means you got two major influences, okay? Two major influences that you're dealing with. Here's the two scenarios that is seen most often if you're dealing with people that are that counsel folks regularly, life coaches, psychiatrists. This is what they'll tell you, and this is what my personal experience is you got people that live with a mindset of past versus the future, okay, or present, and they waver back into. And then you've got folks that are steadily, they've got a seed in them, something that wants to achieve. They want greatness. They want to be, do, and have more. But it's like there's this suction that's steady pulling them back to mediocrity. So whether that, obviously, a lot of times relationships, folks that we're around, we've said it before, you're going to become some average of the people that you spend the most time with. But when you talk to people, you'll always hear them go back and talk about, and it really, what it comes down to in a lot of cases is just laziness, because they don't want to take the action that they need to take to achieve the things that they would love to have. They would love to have the nice house and the nice car and the friends of influence and the beautiful wife and the great relationship, but they're scared to make the move because it's a lot more comfortable to stay in the mediocrity they're currently living in. And I talked about, I think it was on part two of the podcast with Todd Saylor, where you have to go back and listen to it, where I talked about, sometimes even myself personally, when you're going through real difficult times in business, and it's always a war and it's always a fight, there's in times, temporary little moments of weakness, there's this thing that'll come on you sometimes. It's like, man, it'd be nice to just be a 9-to-5 person and not be driven like I'm driven, and not to want more, and always, being divinely discontent where I'm at, because I want to help more people, and I know I need more resources to help more people. So if I could just be that 9-to-5 person and, go home and play with the kids a few minutes and watch TV and eat supper and watch some more TV and go to bed and get up and do it all again the next day. And, listen, there's times that just that mediocrity, even in a position that I might be in, that John may be in, that some of the major CEOs, people that's got way more than we've ever thought about having currently. Listen, everybody has those moments, but you can't stay there. You have to course correct your thinking, Remind yourself of your why. Remind yourself of what your destiny is, why you put here. And you can't allow that to suck you backwards, because I promise you, you're just going to wither up and die in that environment anyhow. You're not cut out. If you're listening to this podcast, okay, you're an achiever, and you're not cut out for that type of environment, for that type of culture, for that type of mentality. And then again, there's the people that always live in the past. They want to talk about how good old days used to be and how good it used to be, and they almost go, or do in a lot of cases, go into a depression today. They can't focus on the future and continuing to build and move forward, for always looking back at how great things used to be when they was a kid, or how, your first marriage that maybe you thought was great, but the person left you. Whatever your story is, whatever your thing is. Listen, let me tell you something. This is a quote that I've used often, but for those of you that's always stuck in the past, where you think the good old days is better than where you're at now, or better than anything that could be in the future. Let me tell you something. The past is never there when you try to go back. It exists only in memory. And to pretend otherwise is to invite a mess. I'm going to read that again. The past is never there when you try to go back. It exists, but only in memory. And to pretend otherwise is to invite a mess. Let me tell you what, I've had a front row seat multiple times in my life to people that always tried to live in the past. And I'm going to tell you what, their life has always ended up in a mess. Now, I'm not telling you they stayed there. But it's like I've told, and we talked about on other podcasts, there's a reason the windshield on your vehicle is the size it is. And there's a reason that the rear view mirror is the size it is. If you focus on the rear view mirror, you will wreck. You will crash. The rear view mirror is made for an occasional glance. The only time you're supposed to look back is just to see how far you've come, to give it a quick glance, and to keep moving forward. But that big, bright, open windshield in front of you is where your focus is to be, the journey ahead, the things you can accomplish, the places you're going to go, the things you're going to see, the people you're going to be able to influence. That is to be your focus. So in dealing with this issue of being double-minded, because most people that really deal with that, to where it's an actual bondage and it holds them back in life, is normally dealing with one of them two scenarios. They're either always fighting that battle of laziness, where they're feeling the gravity trying to suck them back to mediocrity, compared to the seed of greatness in them, because we all have a seed of greatness. Okay, you're put here to prosper on this earth, to suffer no harm, and believe it or not, you've got a predestined end. God's seen it all before he sent you through your mother's womb, and you got somewhere you're supposed to end up. And so that thing that's always trying to fight you is trying to suck you back to mediocrity when you're supposed to be moving into your greatness and into achievement. Okay. And the only true source of fulfillment in life, I'm here to tell you, comes from achievement. If you want to be depressed, down, busted, and disgusted, then sit there and just maintain. Don't advance. Sit there and just try to do nothing, and then if you're a person that's focused on the past, listen, it's time to focus on the future. Get your eyes on the windshield and move forward. Don't let these things, don't let these outside influences rock you from your destiny and what you're supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to be going. So we all want stability. But I'm telling you right now, if you're double-minded in life, and you say, well, Justin, how do I quit being double-minded? Well, you've got to make a decision. You can't get, give you a quote here, you can't get rich making poor choices. You've got to make a decision to move forward and to go after something that's going to create and achieve and produce for you and your family. And so today is a real defining day. If you're listening to this, if you feel like you're the type person that has struggled back and forth with mediocrity, with looking at the past, but knowing where you want to go, and you always feel torn and you just can't make a decision, today's your day to pick a horse and ride it. Today's your day to make a decision. There is no magic bullet. There's not a 3-step program that's going to help you get there. You have to make a decision, whether you feel like it or not. And when you do that, your actions will begin to line up, followed by your feelings, because you're not going to feel like doing it, but your actions and then your feelings will begin to line up with the decision that you made. But it all starts with making a definitive decision. So today's the day to decide if you're going to continue to be double-minded, or if you're going to pick a horse and ride it, move forward, and do the very best you have with what you've been given. So we hope you've enjoyed this today. We hope it brings you value, and we'll see you again next time here on Separation Nation.